Grinch are happy about it.
No, there wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. Your right to freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never, ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats. And they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back.
And if you try to transition a child, you are guilty of child abuse, and every doctor, every nurse, every clinician that is helping that is culpable in that crime.
This thing is so full of pork that even Scrooge and the Grinch are happy about it.
No, there wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. Your right to freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never, ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats. And they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back.
And if you try to transition a child, you are guilty of child abuse, and every doctor, every nurse, every clinician that is helping that is culpable in that crime.
This thing is so full of pork that even Scrooge and the Grinch are happy about it.
No, there wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. Your right to freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never, ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats. And they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back.
Hello, everybody. This is Congressman Andy Ogles, and this is episode 39 of Restoring the Republic. Holy cow. Iran's going boom, boom. We've got the big, beautiful bill. We've got a potential mayor of New York who needs to be deported. We've got a lot to touch on. Oh, and by the way, wackadoodle Freddie O'Connell is under investigation. So let's start with the big, beautiful bill. What's going on with that? So President Donald Trump has called for a 4th of July deadline. The House met that call. We passed it. We sent it over to the Senate. It wasn't perfect, but it was a step in the right direction. Now, over the last few days, the Senate has quite frankly been screwing it up. So the House of Representatives and the White House, we worked closely together to create a framework that would no tax on tips. It secures the border. It makes the Trump tax cuts permanent. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And what it does is it unleashes the greatest economy in the world, which is the American economy. It fights inflation, which brings down interest rates, which ignites the housing market. There's so much that's going to happen after this passes if the House version passes. Now, what's happening in the Senate, they're tinkering with it, and they're making it much, much worse. Now, they were originally going to send it over to us on Saturday. Then they bumped it to Sunday. Now they're saying that their vote may not be till Tuesday. Well, keep in mind the 4th of July is Friday. And so there's some hope they'll do a vote-a-rama, which is a long vote starting Monday night into Tuesday, which means it would be ready for us to vote on sometime Tuesday afternoon. And so, but the problem is that with some of the changes they're making, it's going to be much worse. It's not going to be as good as what we passed. And quite frankly, frankly, if I had to make a play call, if I had to make a prediction, I don't see how the votes are there in the House for this messed up, screwed up Senate version. They need to get their act together. They need to follow the lead of the president. And they need to follow the lead of the House of Representatives and pass what we sent to them. Now, and if they want to change it, they just need to make it better, not worse. So that's the kind of the status of the big, beautiful bill. So what happens next if it fails? Then right after the 4th of July, we come back and we go through this process. Ultimately, it'll be passed. Ultimately, the Trump tax cuts will be made permanent. They don't expire to the end of the year anyway, but the sooner we can signal to the stock market, to the bond market, to the interest rates, et cetera, the sooner we unleash this economy. So let's shift gears for a minute. Let's talk about boom, boom, boom. There's a great one. I love those little they're on Twitter, like baby meme things where it like takes Donald Trump, but he's an infant and he's talking. I don't know. I think it's funny. You should watch him. But anyway, when you look at Iran, they were rapidly increasing their pace in the development of nuclear capabilities. The President of the United States has the authority to authorize a strike against a military installation if it's a potential threat to the homeland. That's what he did, and that's where he stopped. He wasn't targeting civilians or military personnel. It was specifically that installation. It was specifically that capability. Now, because of that, there's been some talk of reprisals here in the homeland from sleeper cells. Now, what does that mean? Well, what happened is under President Joe Biden, we were invaded. 10 million. 2 million gotaways. So 10 million altogether, 2 million gotaways. What is a gotaway? Those are folks we don't know where they came from, and we don't know where they went. Of that, we know that there are sleeper cells. We know that there's individuals, terrorist individuals in this country who are planning or poised to plan some sort of attack on the homeland. We're monitoring those individuals. There's literally some Iranian hitman in this country. So that's what happened under President Joe Biden. That's why securing the border, passing the big, beautiful bill, deporting these individuals is so important. And when you look, and I'm gonna transition, use this as a segue to O'Connell in a second. So if you see something suspicious, report it. But have fun. This is the greatest nation on earth. Enjoy the 4th of July. Celebrate. Raise your head, raise the flag high, because this is the greatest nation on earth, and we will not be intimidated or threatened. So enjoy your holiday. Now, you look at sanctuary cities. Why do I mention that? Is when we see this type of sleeper cell activity, the more likely to be in sanctuary cities. So when you have a woke mayor like Freddie O'Connell making Nashville more attractive, making it more like a sanctuary, he's potentially increasing the chance that those folks are going to migrate to Nashville. So that is stupid. It's dumb. That's why I called for an investigation into Freddie O'Connell. We're reviewing the emails he sent. There's still other documents that he has not sent, and we don't have anything about the belonging fund and some of the other stuff. So there's more to come on that. We're going through this with a fine-tooth comb. There's a lot of questions, not only for Freddie O'Connell, but the mayor of Boston and LA and some of these other woke mayors. And you look at this Mamdani dude that won the Democratic primary up in New York for city mayor. He's literally said that he will not only not cooperate, but interfere with ICE. Individuals like that need to be hauled before Congress. They need to be questioned if they conduct that type of activity. And then let's do the Freddie O'Connell clip. Let's go there.
Hi, Karen Aguilar, Fox 17 News. Do you believe that posting the names of federal immigration officers endangers them?
I can't hear it. I don't know if the audience can. So
really an issue where they were already part of a public record by being in Department of Emergency Communications calls, so I don't think it puts them at additional risk, but it's also not an intention of the executive order under which those names were released.
So if it doesn't put
So
them at additional risk,
what the mayor is being asked about there was the doxing of federal agents. So you have the mayor with his executive order. He's requiring the city police, the fire department, public works to report any activity of ICE in Nashville. He's then putting that activity on the city of Nashville's website. But he also went so far as to putting some of the agents, their names, on the city website. He doxed them. Now, As someone who's on the Homeland Security Committee, and I have seen and understand the capabilities, the counter surveillance capabilities of all of the cartels in Mexico, South and Central America. When you put up their face, you put up their name, it's quite easy for these individuals, the cartels, to reverse and figure out who they are. And once they do that, it puts their families at risk, and we know that for a fact. And so he's a radical activist mayor who's making Nashville less safe. He's making it more attractive for criminals to come to Nashville and make Nashvillians a victim. And at the end of the day, the folks that ICE, 73%, by the way, of the folks that have been detained by ICE have committed records. They have a criminal record. 73%. Murders, rapists, drug traffickers, human traffickers, you go down the list. That's who Freddie O'Connell is siding with. Criminal illegals, not the city of Nashville. Criminal illegals, not against his own constituents. And so folks like Freddie need to be held account. That's why we're going to bring him before Congress. But that being said, enjoy your 4th of July. If you see something suspicious, report it. This is the greatest country in the world. Be proud, hold your head high, and support the flags of our great country. God bless.
If you try to transition a child, you are guilty of child abuse, and every doctor, every nurse, every clinician that is helping that is culpable in that crime.
This thing is so full of pork that even Scrooge and the Grinch are happy about it.
No, there wouldn't be a First Amendment without the Second Amendment. Your right to freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, the freedom and liberties that we have in this country are because of the Second Amendment. And never, ever forget that.
She's not going to be the great savior for the Democrats. And they can't skip over the first black woman vice president with the whitest man ever in history, Gavin Newsom.
It's time that we, the people, take this country back.